Hello and welcome to Africa Today. I am Esther Omopariola. In a world where the system designed to put food on every table is struggling, the level of shortage is said to be ridiculous, to the point where there is more nutrients in a rich man's shampoo than in a poor man's plate. Although food is said to be one of the most basic human rights, nearly 800 million people suffer from hunger in the world, most of them in Africa. And so we ask, what are your thoughts on the level of food insecurity in parts of Nigeria and across Africa? You can join the conversation and share your thoughts with us on Twitter at TVC News NG. We take a report now, and Africa Today will continue. Welcome on board.
In 2016, the United Nations Environmental Programme launched the Ecosystem-Based Adaptation for Food Security Assembly in Nigeria as a way of combating food insecurity, climate change, and poverty. At that event, the United Nations Environmental Programme declared that 240 million people in Africa go to bed hungry. Recently, a group, the Voices for Food Security Coalition, made renewed advocacy, the Right to Food Bill, which has been pending at the National Assembly for more than 8 years.
Improve policies of government on tax and budget, improve policies of private sector on tax, wages, and corporate social responsibility, increase citizens' voice, stronger and wider alliance across the country. Specifically in Nigeria, we want to build active citizens, secure the right to food in the as the Nigerian Constitution, and improve climate change adaptation, support government on internal revenue mobilization, and improve the utilization.
The right to food is a human right which protects people from hunger in order to live a dignified life. We have since identified that the problem in agriculture stems from the fact that the government is not placing food in the right position. They are seeing food as a need, and they are not seeing it as a human rights approach. They are not seeing it from the human rights approach.
There are concerns which over around affordability of the bill, and at the core of these concerns is the perennial reluctance of government to be accountable to our citizens.
Between 2010 and 2013, 2 legislative bills were proposed to the National Assembly for the amendment of the Nigerian Constitution to give recognition to the right to food in Chapter 2 of the Constitution and to include right to food among human rights specified in Chapter 4. 8 years later, the bill was thrown out of the National Assembly by Nigerian lawmakers, denying millions the right to fight hunger and poverty. Joining me in the studio on Africa Today, I have Sola Kolawole, co-founder, the Rural Environmental Empowerment Initiative, and also I have Ropo Egbeleke, a food rights advocate in Nigeria. Good to have you gentlemen on the program.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk about this Food Rights Act or bill. What exactly is it all about? Let me start with you, Sola.
Yeah, the bill is the Right to Food Bill. The status of the bill, let's start with the status of the bill and the reason why we are here. In 2010, the bill was introduced to the House of Representatives to amend Section 2 of the Constitution so that we can have it under the state policies. Then between 2010 and 2011, when it was reintroduced to the Senate, this time around it came to the Senate as an amendment under Section 4, the fundamental human rights. Now, in 2016 again, it was harmonized and reintroduced to both the House of Reps and the Senate to alter Sections 2 and 4, making food a right. You know, there are two regimes. There was the regime of need and there's also the regime of right. In the regime of need, food was like a charity or a favor. But under the regime of rights, we would be having food as a right of every Nigerian. So the right to food bill in itself is a UN declaration. And countries who are signatories to that should ordinarily have adopted it as part of their constitution as a right, not as charity or favor in passing. So that is the foundation to the right to food bill agitation in Nigeria.
All right, now, Ropo, with what Sola has rightly put out, clearly it means Nigerians or Africans, have a right to food, irrespective of the government or whoever is in charge of the country at that moment. But in most countries today, some would say the government has been providing most of what we need in terms of agriculture, in terms of other food access. So would you say the food right bill, or however it's being termed, wouldn't it be a duplicity of what the bill stands to, advocate when we have a government providing, more or less what the people need to sustain themselves?
Well, the right to food bill did not in any way jettison the activities or the effort in which the government of different countries, or especially Nigeria, to say, has been doing. But what the right to food bill is trying to do is to make it an obligation that is justiciable.
Okay.
If I decided, I'm the president of Nigeria today, and I promise to deliver some certain policy in terms of agriculture, in terms of food, in terms of taking care of the IDPs, the vulnerables, the people with disability. If I did not do it, nobody can hold me accountable, because it is not a right in the Constitution. Nobody can set up litigations. Even if you protest it tomorrow, you are going to lose, because it is not stated clearly as a fundamental right in the Constitution. So what we are saying is this, that it is a right, it is a social contract, because we signed the social contract by giving you our votes to represent us. So in the obligation of the government to respect that social contract, to provide, and the right to food bill is not saying that people that are, it's not trying to encourage laziness. It's not trying to say people that are physically fit, that can walk, to be knocking at the government's door, I'm hungry, you have to give me food, it's my right to food. No. What we are saying is this, that the government should create policies that will enable an average Nigerian citizens to produce food or to earn a living, to purchase. Those are the two key words. So policy might deny an average Nigerian to earn a living, to purchase food, if I don't want to be in agriculture. And we have also seen policies that deny people the means of production. By acquiring land, by, in order,
And talking about the means of production, does the right to food bill cover those areas? Because we have farmers who produce food, and we also have chemically produced food. Talking about the GMOs now, does it also cover all those aspects?
Yeah, we have food security and food sovereignty as a component of the right to food. People should have right to choose what they want to eat or what they want to produce. So the GMO is another thing entirely. The right to food did not encourage GMOs to come into the country, because it's even expensive for the farmers to do. But what we are saying is that if you are bringing policy in the name of development, or in the name of you want to provide food for people, you should not deny other people their access to that food in terms of means of productions or means of purchase.
Now, the bill has been thrown out twice now, Sola, from the National Assembly in Nigeria. What are the reasons given for that?
Well, technically, it is not thrown out.
Okay.
But you see, like I have said initially, the thing around this bill has to do with a lot of ignorance.
On the part of who?
On the part of our legislators. I have seen that a lot of them were not educated about the content of the bill. I'm saying this because the resistance to having it as a right in the Constitution, in the 6th Assembly, in the 7th Assembly, and even in this 8th Assembly, is bordered around, number one, affordability. There is this concern that will government be able to afford food for all?
Why should the government be so concerned? Because we understand that we have...
It is part of ignorance.
Okay.
Then there is also the concern about litigation, that Nigerians will begin to hold government accountable. Don't forget that the obligations of government, the roles of government as per this bill, has to do with protecting the right to food, recognizing the right to food, protecting that right, and fulfilling that right. So there are concerns that Nigerians may begin to approach the courts to challenge the Nigerian government for not putting in place the right policies that will guarantee right to food.
All right, let's hold it for now. We need to go on a very quick break. You're watching Africa Today, and we've been looking at food insecurity in Nigeria, in Africa, as well as where food that's right to build is far from being a law. Amidst a worrisome food security outlook around the continent, Africa's population is expected to hit 2 billion by 2050. In Nigeria, it is believed that the Right to Food Bill, when passed into law, will recognize and protect the right of people against hunger and poverty. Now, Sola, before we went on break, you were explaining the reasons why the bills have been twice thrown out by
the National Assembly. On why this bill should be stepped down, technically. Now, I mentioned the concerns around the cost implication of the bill, but you ask, if government can commit $1 billion to fight Boko Haram that we were told has been technically defeated, I'm talking about $1 billion American dollars. Then you have a situation where INEC will conduct elections in 3 days for almost about 70 billion Nigerian naira. Not to talk of the bogus salaries that we are beginning to hear of from the National Assembly, where senators go home with almost about 13.5 million naira in a month. And then we now see them having concerns about the Right to Food Bill and the cost implication. Now, don't forget that the most important bill in this country today, to the common man on the street, is that Right to Food Bill. Now, the other concern is that litigations will begin to come. There will be a groundswell of litigation against government, being incapable of meeting the right to food, the executing the Right to Food Bill.
Right.
You have that also. Then again, you now have that aspect of the fact that we are in a recession and this is not the best time for government.
So in all this, it's all about ignorance on the part of the legislators.
The bedrock of it is ignorance.
Okay, so how can we get these lawmakers or get them to understand the meaning of what this food right get to do for
now
people?
We'll begin to do a lot of engagement. I think they need a lot of education regarding this. That is number one. Then again, we begin to ask Nigerians, when your lawmakers come around for town hall meetings or contact sessions, ask them what they are doing about the Right to Food Bill. Because a lot of people don't know the beneficiaries of this bill. They are the internally displaced people, the disabled, the farmers,
children,
market actors,
the vulnerable,
children, women.
All right.
These are the beneficiaries of this bill. And when you don't cater for this segment of society, then I wonder what you call development.
Okay, let's still look at African countries, practicing or implementing this bill. How many of them would you say, Ropo, would you say is practicing the Right to Food Bill?
Not really that we have a lot of African countries. I think South Africa have a specific aspect of their constitution that guarantees it. The main reason we are having this Right to Food Bill agitation is because it's not categorically stated in the constitution. It's not guaranteed in the constitution as a right. But we have some African countries that do have it as a right. Of course, majority don't have it. But
so is still part of ignorance? Or
yeah,
it's part of
because, you know, Africans, we have the same, almost the same nomenclature and characteristics when it comes to governance. So if you want to make a case study for a whole Africa, it's very easy for you to take a country, and your research results will represent almost all of them, because the characteristics of bad leadership, where lawmakers, you know, did not live up to the expectation of their responsibility of what they're supposed to do, and because I don't want to, for Sola to say that it's the lack of education, I think I disagree a little bit there.
Okay, so what are your points then?
I think it is an intentional conspiracy.
Really, on the part of who?
Of the lawmakers.
Why is
to
that?
keep people in hunger. You see, by the time people are not hungry again, all these coming home to come and share Okada, share grinding machine, refrigerator as empowerment, will not be there. It's not going to have any value. Sharing umbrella, transistor radio, and Indomie.
So it's more or less seen as a right. So it's not like you're doing anyone a favor.
When people are not hungry,
yeah,
they will not come and be lining up
such.
For you to give them grinding machine, refrigerator.
But that is empowerment, isn't it? Isn't food as you.
You see, let me tell you one thing. Let me tell you one thing. What makes them to be running after them? Is it not because we have a lot of farmers? If you go to this empowerment stuff, we have a lot of farmers. If the policy is fantastic enough, we have a lot of young guys, young people that have left farm, because farming in Nigeria is very, very difficult. We have a lot of young guys that wanted to go back to farm, that because the policy in agriculture, the Maputo Declaration in 2002, in which Nigeria is a signatory to, you know, stated clearly that African countries should have 26% of their budget as part of the for agriculture. What is the budget percentage of agriculture in Nigeria? We all know that it's ridiculous when we have 70-something billion naira or something.
Okay, now on the part of the people now, not too many may understand the meaning of the Right to Food bill. Now, Ropo, if you're to look at this matter on the part of, you know, educating the whole lot of Nigerians, because not everyone, like I put it earlier, don't understand what it means to have a food right bill. What are you doing, or what is your initiative doing to enlighten a whole lot of people to, you know, key into what your initiative is all about?
Well, what we are doing is to, as Sola said earlier, is to the engagement of the public. In fact, we have to start from the elites, because the elite itself they are the one that produce knowledge, even the social media. So we started a social media campaign, media campaign, of course, hashtag Right to Food bill on Twitter, and we want to generate a discourse around it in which people will start asking questions. People have started asking questions. People have been demanding for the bill. They want to look at it. Some people have been making suggestions that, okay, the bill covers this, it covers this. But when there is no public discussion like this, like what we are doing here, then people will not start asking questions. So I know that some honorables now watching it in Abuja will be preparing to answer questions when they come home over the weekend. If that is what we want people to start asking them questions. Fundamentally, some honorables, to be sincere, I don't want to believe that all of them are not responsible to their constituency. Some of them did not even know, because what happened in the Constitutional Review Committee, where this bill has been stepped down. You know, some of them, we have a lot of people for the bill to have passed the first reading, the second reading in the House of Representatives, shows that there are a lot of honorables that are in line with it. But of course, they might not know the status of the of the bill. So this kind of conversation will make their constituency to ask them questions that what is happening. So when they get back, they might call the attention of people that, okay, what is happening to the bill? So people that did not read the bill, that step down the bill based on affordability and
so in other words, you are more or less mobilizing the people via social media.
Then we are going to start a legwork. We are planning a massive rally. You see, it's a step by step.
Okay.
It is either you give us the right to food, or you forget about coming back to 2019.
All right, now, Sola, let's take a look at policy implementation, which is usually a problem, because now you say the Right to Food bill is something that every Nigerian or every African, if I were to put it that way, have a right to. So we shouldn't be treated like, you know, it's a charity.
Like begging for food or something.
More or less. Now, what are we talking about? Now, talking about policy implementation, how can we ensure that when this bill is passed into law, it definitely has its effect on the people?
Now, let's start with the impact of the Right to Food bill. What will be the impact on the economy? It will grow the economy. Rural livelihood will improve because social investments will be made in the agricultural sector. This will bring a lot of people around agriculture. You see the farmers, the market actors, and all what have you. Then again, the issue of food security now comes in. Confidently, we can now say we'll be having a country that is secured in terms of food. Then it will reduce our foreign, it will help us to save foreign exchange. We are spending a whole lot to bring in what we should not be bringing in.
Yeah, I get it. We know all the positives,
Yeah.
but my worry
in
is
the implementation, you see, we will not put the cart before the horse. We need this bill as a right first. Other things will align. You know, everything starts with policy. Where does the interest of government lies? Or what are the policies driving government to do what it should do for her people? So the implementation aspect of it, we'll begin to see it trickle down. Once the bill is passed, and we know that every Nigerian has a right to food, government must make provision for
and
that.
if it doesn't happen the way you want it to go,
That is
what
why
happens?
when it becomes a right, it becomes justiciable. You see, there was an era when government was complacent. There was policy complacency. But we are coming into an era of policy responsibility, policy accountability, and due process.
Okay, and on that note, I'd like to thank you very much, Kolawole Sola, co-founder the Rural Environmental Empowerment Initiative, for your contributions on this show. As well, Ropo Egbeleke, food rights advocate in Nigeria. Thank you for your time with us.
Thank you.
Well, now that's about it on Africa Today. Thank you very much for being a part of the program. For more, join the program using our Twitter handle at TVC News NG, and also following me for more updates around Africa at Esther TVC News. Until the next one, I am Esther Omopariola, and always remember, this is Africa. Bye for now.